And we're live. Well, we're technically recording. Hello, and welcome to the long-awaited sequel to Live and Let's Discuss. I'm Jeremy. I've got Noah with me and a special guest, Adam, from Red Five Reviews and BryantVRM, and a whole bunch of other things.
I just want to say right off the bat, this stream, it took as long as No Time to Die to finally come out.
It took less time than that. Well, actually, I take that back. It took longer because No Time to Die has been done for 2 years. It's just sad. We haven't even started this until now. So, for those of you who don't know, we tried to do an in-between episode while I was between houses on Colonel's Son, which had horrible audio, and I apologize for that. So we will re-record that at some point because that book's awesome. We'll probably we might put that somewhere in the Moore era. I have a feeling we're gonna need a break in between Moore films. But let's talk about the odd one of the classic Bond era. And for me, classic Bond is up until Dalton. Dalton's when things start to get modern.
Yeah. That's when Cubby Broccoli left and his daughter Barbara took over.
Yeah. But this is a weird one. So by the time You Only Live Twice came out, Sean Connery was done with Bond.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when not You Only Live Twice, I get them mixed up. Okay, because we're in the middle of the Blofeld trilogy, but we're also at the end of the Blofeld trilogy, kind of.
Well, we have 2 more Blofeld appearances after this. So.
After this, but I mean, like, the movies are a mess at this point with continuity, and this movie is the weirdest of all that.
Yeah, because this movie creates the biggest continuity error, but it's also like the biggest piece of continuity that they keep on referencing later on.
But only some of it.
Yeah, some of it.
So, oh God, we get to, so this book, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, is the first one that's written during the filming of the Bond films, because this brings up Bond's Scottish heritage for the first time, because they cast Sean Connery, which Fleming infamously said he was way too tall and looked like a gorilla or something like that. Like he was a giant ape. He couldn't play Bond because he was Scottish, but he ended up seeing Dr. No and just loved his performance and retconned Bond into being Scottish, which this is the only time it actually makes sense to bring it up, because they bring it up and You Only Live Twice a bunch and Man with the Golden Gun quite a bit, and it serves no purpose. And we'll get to that. But unfortunately, since Sean Connery left, they got George Lazenby. Well, first they wanted Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton said no, he was too young. They couldn't get Roger Moore because Roger Moore was under contract for a TV show still, because they technically wanted Roger Moore before they got Sean Connery, I do believe. So they went through a lot of people. They got George Lazenby, an Australian model, not really an actor, who found out, according to Lazenby, and I've only ever heard this from him and fairly recently, and we're gonna get that explicit tag right now. He was having a threesome with this couple, and the dude told him that they were looking for a new Bond and that he should try out for it. So Lazenby made up a bunch of stuff when he went to this, like the test performance or whatever, and said that he'd been in all these like Turkish and Ukrainian films that they couldn't reference. And basically they found out that he had lied, and they thought his acting was so good they gave him the part anyway, which I think is so funny. And it's more it's a lot more interesting than some of this movie is. But this book is at a weird crossroads for Bond's character, more so than it is in the movie. This brings up just weirdness. Bond's just a different character in this book, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It doesn't make sense to me. Bond, oh god, in the movie he saves this girl who turns out to be our main Bond girl from drowning and killing herself. And right away we realize that we don't have Sean Connery anymore. We have a man who can't fight, so they have to edit around it.
Which is funny because what you just talked about with Lazenby's backstory, how he got the part.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I have heard is like they did like a test fight with someone else, and Lazenby, he didn't know how to like fake fight like they do in movies, and he actually broke the guy's nose. And they were like, "This is raw energy. This is the actor we want."
So I have this story, because when am I ever going to tell this story? After On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Bruce Lee wanted to do a film with George Lazenby, and they actually were going ahead and doing it, and Bruce Lee died.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. Bruce Lee got Bruce Lee's attention. I don't know why, because oh my god, the editing in this movie, not just in the fighting, but in general, is bizarre.
You know who did the editing? Who? John Glenn.
Did he really?
Yes, future Bond film director.
Yeah, I noticed during my rewatch that some of these effects were definitely dated.
Yeah, but in the book, he's in France in the book, correct? He's actually, because he's reminiscing on Casino Royale.
Oh yeah,
in the beginning.
That's the great thing in the book. He's like at the Casino Royale. We get a little flashback with Vesper. He's visiting her grave actually.
Oh, that's
and
right.
And that's when he meets Tracy.
Yes, and they either hook up at that point or the gambling game happens.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, because the first few chapters of the book, it's not in chronological order. We start where the movie starts, but that's not the first time Bond and Tracy met. First time they meet in the casino, and they sleep, together, and then there's the scene with on the beach. But the movie, they just did it,
the movie's too focused on trying to disguise that it isn't Sean Connery.
Yeah, they even did, like, for the first time that I recall, broke the fourth wall with Lazenby saying, "This never happened to the other guy."
Looking directly into the camera.
That's so horrible.
Like,
I knew it was coming too, because that's always weirded me out. But it's not funny.
Yeah, I mean, they did it just to be like, okay, this is not Sean, but please give him a chance. Like, they were worried.
Yeah, they should have been. This is the second lowest grossing Bond film. Not to say it bombed, but it's the lowest grossing of the friend. Not the lowest grossing, it's the second lowest. I think Die Another Day is the lowest grossing.
Didn't Die Another Day make a bunch of money?
They all, when I say they're lowest grossing, there has never been a flop Bond film.
And we should say License to Kill did not flop, because that's a big misconception. It made a lot of money. It just didn't make the amount that they wanted.
Yeah. They didn't make the amount of money Living Daylights made.
I do like, though, how in this novel that they referenced a future Brosnan film, The World Is Not Enough, which is supposed to be Bond's family's motto.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that. we'll get to that, because, I kind of want to save some of that for The World Is Not Enough, but it's going to be a long time till we get to that. But so Bond, basically, to skip ahead a bit, he's basically saved this woman from killing herself. She's horribly depressed. she had her husband left her and she lost a child. At least I think that's how it happens
Yep.
in the book. In the movie, it's just a huge scandal happened because they wouldn't go that far. They could have. This is the first and only new Hollywood Bond film, and I'll get to that in a bit with the tone and how dark and how upfront brutal, because Bond films have all been kind of brutal up until this point, but this one in particular is very violent at times and kind of graphic. It's closest they've gotten so far to the book's tone, which we should say, with how much this movie differs from the book, it's one of the best adaptations of one of the novels.
Absolutely.
I agree. I've noticed that it was, out of all the Bond films, like you just said, like as I was reading, it's like, wow, they, did the novel pretty good justice.
I think it was more like a passion project for the director, Peter Hunt, who we should also mention. Peter Hunt was the editor for the first Sean Connery movies up until You Only Live Twice.
Yeah. It's interesting. So basically Bond meets Tracy's father, and Tracy's father in both the book and the film wants Bond to marry her for her mental health. And I'm going to level with you guys. I hate Tracy's father in the book.
Ooh.
He is blatantly a rapist. Blatantly, and just does not care. He basically kidnapped Tracy's mother, and she, I guess, got Stockholm syndrome, and they have a child together, and then she died, which they don't say in the movie because that's not acceptable. That's a Fleming disgusting thing that Fleming did. But like he's interesting. He reminds me a lot of a shittier version of what's his face from
Karen Bay. Karen Bay is also a rapist, just so you know.
That's true.
He's still extremely likable.
But yeah, I don't get that on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I think it has to do with the tone. Bond doesn't want anything really to do with her. He thinks she's attractive, but he's like, marriage isn't for me. I'm in the Secret Service. I go to basically doomed missions and survive. Like, that's my thing. I don't know. I don't get it. But like in the movie, I get it more. This is one positive for the movie. They have a beautiful montage of Tracy and Bond falling in love.
Yeah,
which is what I wanted to mention. I think I love the book, just so we're clear, and I also love the film. And I think the movie improves upon some elements of the book, like the romance, for example.
There is no romance in the book. That's my thing. We'll get to when Bond officially decides that he's going to go through with marrying her in the book, because it's just bizarre. And it's like Fleming just didn't know what to do.
Which we should talk about, because the whole Fleming and getting married, it was some personal stuff of his that he wanted to incorporate here. So.
Oh, okay. So the way Tracy's father gets Bond to think about marrying his daughter is that he has information on where Blofeld is. Mm-hmm. In the book, they've been searching for Blofeld for a while after the whole Thunderball thing happened.
Yeah, it was
in Spy Who Loved Me, there's a failed attempt to try to find Spectre, which we should mention because, that's the only thing that ties Spy Who Loved Me into the rest of the Bond books.
Yeah.
Is that he's hunting Spectre in that. But it's like a one-off sentence. Or no, actually, it's a paragraph. Because he goes on to explain what happened in Thunderball. And it makes you wish you were reading Thunderball.
And then and he tells about how he searched for this, maybe this Spectre agent, and then you realize, oh, I would like to read that story instead of Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
But nope, we get more Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. Oh God. Anyway, so Bond basically goes to M with this, that he has. Well, the movie's pulled off of the
Operation Bedlam, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Which is one of the bigger differences, which I found interesting, because in the book, Bond wants to resign because he's like my talent is wasted just hunting Blofeld. He's probably dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way Spectre is a threat anymore. Whereas in the movie, he's like, no, sir, you can't just, take this away from me. I want to catch Blofeld.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that in the book, he doesn't actually attempt to resign. He just has a letter written out. But in the actual film, he actually does attempt to resign, but Moneypenny stops him. Yeah.
Which is a nice lead scene. This is the first time, though, that you start to notice that this would be better if Sean Connery were in there.
I heavily disagree.
Really? Why?
Yeah, I think Sean Connery. People say, "Oh, Sean Connery and Majesties, that would have made the movie better." You remember how Connery was at this point in time?
That's true, but I mean, if they had done this in the correct order,
then it would have worked, maybe. If they did it right after Thunderball, which was the original plan, by the way.
Yes, and we talked about that in the last episode. They couldn't get it, hadn't snowed yet, and they couldn't film it. They didn't want to bring in a bunch of artificial snow.
So let's just do the third book in a trilogy instead of like a standalone.
Why don't we just do Diamonds Are Forever at that point? Take a break from Spectre again?
Nope.
No.
Right to the end.
But anyway, so Moneypenny in the movie basically gives Bond 2 weeks of vacation, which in those 2 weeks he falls in love with Tracy, kind of. Well, she falls in love with him. She's not sure if he's in love with her, but it's pretty clear in the movie that he's he's kind of very into her. And I say kind of very because we're going to get to some Bond.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, she carries this movie.
Diana Rigg?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, they specifically choose her because when they found out Lazenby has no acting experience, they were like, okay, everything else in this movie needs to be perfect to make up for Lazenby, just in case his performance is really bad. Which I just want to mention, I'm not a Lazenby hater. I think he does a decent job, I think.
If he had another movie, I think we would have seen him shine more.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he did have one more Bond thing. He had like an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents in the 80s called, what was it called? Diamonds Aren't Forever, where he basically played Bond, but they just call him James because they would get sued by Eon. And
he also has a sort of role as M in the John Stamos vanity Gene Simmons movie, Never Too Young to Die, which was on the first episode of Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst. He is in that because he was the cheapest Bond to get.
Oh, man.
Have a cameo.
They also at first tried to get him for Never Say Never Again, which would have been awesome instead of Sean Connery getting a second Lazenby performance.
Yeah, that would have been different. I'm still of the opinion that I think Sean Connery's acting in Never Say Never Again is the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Because he actually is trying for the first time in years.
After rewatching this film today, I noticed George Lazenby is the more chatty of all the Bonds.
You haven't watched enough Roger Moore yet.
I've seen those films a long time ago. I've been rewatching them, but so far, from what I've rewatched, he's the most chatty. He's also the one that smiles the most. He's always just
he does chat, but he's not like Roger Moore. Roger Moore talks himself out of things a lot more. That's something we'll get to soon with Roger Moore's take on Bond. as opposed to anyone else's take on Bond.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it comes from Roger Moore didn't like the Fleming. He didn't like Fleming's books. But I digress. So Bond gets. I don't even remember how this plays out in the book. I know we get to the coat of arms people. The what are they called?
Oh yeah, it's the I think it's the coat of arms.
Yeah, where they look up people's heritage because Blofeld is claiming that he's a count. And he has this thing in Switzerland, I do believe. It's in the Alps, which is super beautiful. And this movie doesn't shy away from how beautiful the Alps are.
Yeah, Noah actually sent me a link earlier before we recorded that the studio actually purchased that building out in the mountains and finished paying it off so that way just so they can film there.
Yeah, because Piz Gloria, as it's called in the book, the movie, and in real life now, it was a restaurant, and it was just like getting constructed while they were about to film. And they came in and they said, "Well, this is awesome, but it's not finished." So they were like, "Okay, we're gonna pay you, like setting it all up out of our own pocket, and then we can film in here."
That explains why it looks like a building and not a set.
Oh yeah, because it was.
There's certain parts of it that are sets, but
I was gonna say the coat of arms scene in the book was, amusing at first, but it was amusing at first, but I was like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah, because we have this irritating character.
I know. Irritating character. Bond's clearly annoyed and inner monologue complaining about it. And in the movie, it's short and sweet to the point. Although they bring up The World Is Not Enough, which became a very terrible Bond movie, that has some actual Honor Majesty sort of moments in it. Intermixed with a Bond villain who has a bullet in his brain and he's like invincible.
Yeah, we get a reference to Tracy.
And Denise Richards was cast as a nuclear. Was she like a nuclear physicist?
I think she called herself a nuclear psychiatrist.
And she's literally, she can't act. She says all the science jargon and can't pronounce half of it. It's a horrible movie where Bond swims way too deep underwater for way too long and would have died.
Turns into Aquaman.
I was about to say,
yeah, he turns into Aquaman. And it's the beginning of the dumb era of Bond that we're unfortunately still kind of stuck in, where it has to be gigantic for no reason. Thankfully, this movie is not that. But basically, Bond is taking the identity of Sir Hilary Bray, and this brings out the Scottish side of Bond.
Oh yes, with his costume and everything, which I actually like. Like I don't mind it.
It's not played as a complete joke.
I was gonna say after rewatching that, I'm just like, this is basically they're trying to do some type of Clark Kent type stuff, where I was just like, okay, come on, just like Blofeld clearly knows what Bond looks like, and I'm just like, I mean, you could disguise your voice all you want, but I'm just like, Blofeld would have picked.
But he had glasses on,
and I think he doesn't. He put makeup on.
No,
not in the film, but
that's the interesting thing. No, in the book, no.
Oh, really? Okay.
But that's the interesting thing with continuity, which we should talk about.
Well, in the book, it works because Bond and Blofeld have never seen one another.
Right.
Because the first Spectre story was Thunderball, which is basically the same as the movie. That's the good thing, like the first couple of Sean Connery films, pretty accurate to the books.
Yeah.
This would have worked if it was right after Thunderball.
Yes.
But they did You Only Live Twice, and they changed a lot of stuff, and Bond and Blofeld already met each other.
Yeah,
and they fought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which people like to point out, and it's, I'm not allowed to swear, but it's dumb. They say, oh, Blofeld didn't recognize Bond in this movie because in You Only Live Twice he was in his Japanese disguise. No, he wasn't. He wasn't at that point. He just looked like Sean Connery. There was no makeup left on him.
No, that's from the book where he still looks Japanese, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I still want to point out, I pointed it out in the last episode, Sean Connery's way too tall. He doesn't look Japanese. Even if you do some racist sort of makeup, he still looks like Sean Connery and Scottish.
And he talks like Sean Connery.
I know.
Yeah, but
I'm glad, because I don't want to hate that movie any more than I already do. But oh god, so Bond goes to, I can't remember what it's called now.
Piz Gloria?
It's Gloria. He's met by God, I always want to call her Rosa Klebb, but
one of the best henchmen, I would say, Irma Bunt.
Irma Bunt,
yeah.
Who best cast? What a great casting!
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, that's one of the, like, 3 really good casting choices.
Where it's like, okay, this is like pitch perfect, the character from the book.
Yes, she's the most accurate to the book, I will say. And then we meet Blofeld,
played by Telly Savalas.
Savalas, yeah.
One of my favorite Blofelds.
Absolutely.
He was the more laid back of the Blofelds, because like when we got Donald Pleasance, like Donald Pleasance kept making like these weird faces, like my name is Elstavo Blofeld, and I was just like, and he like keeps getting in Sean Connery's face and everything like that. It's like
and he does the fake German accent.
It's like, it won't be the nicotine that kills you, Mr. Bond, and I'm like this guy's creeping me out.
It's like how he acts in the later Halloween movies he's in. That's like a crazy person.
It's just like, but I mean, without it, we wouldn't have gotten Dr. Evil. But it's just, I like that Telly Savalas in the second one. He's actually, I found him to be a little bit more like conniving and diabolical than because he actually, he would sit there and he would and
he seems more intelligent.
Yeah.
He's way more believable, and which I like, he gets his hands dirty. Like he didn't just sit behind his desk.
Yeah, because I remember, I think I was remember reading in Thunderball, like they made a reference that I think Blofeld actually is a trained fighter. Like, wasn't he like
a weightlifter or something?
Yeah. Like I thought he was like a boxer
and he had let himself go
a little bit.
A little bit, and he was like reflecting on that in the meeting before he electrocutes that dude.
But yeah, it's still, though, it was, I like the they even point out like in the film that like how obvious their attempted disguises are. It's just like, just a pair of glasses, I can't convince me that you're not James Bond. And then, he retaliates by saying like, cutting off your earlobes that, doesn't make you look any less like Blofeld.
Yeah, when he talks with his real voice again. And that's...
we have to talk about how George Lazenby's dubbed.
Okay.
I was wondering, was he actually
Oh no,
dubbed?
that's another actor. George Lazenby's Australian and cannot do a Scottish accent.
I was about to say,
but the dub in this film, like with a lot of the other early Bond films, a lot of stuff doesn't match up. It's kind of sloppy. But specifically with George Lazenby, like he just couldn't be, he just wasn't good enough of an actor at that time to be dubbed back in accurately. It's especially in the beginning fight. It's weird editing and bad dub.
They made there's like this scene where when they're going, I'm jumping a little bit. I'll just say that, like, you know, when he's as posing as Sir Hilary Bray, he makes a reference saying, like, he's like, "Oh, guns make me nervous." And then later when he says it again after he shoots a guy, like, you hear him say, "Guns make me nervous," but you don't see George Lazenby's mouth move at all. Like, I just noticed that today. Like, he just takes this guy's gun, like, you don't see his mouth move, but you hear him say like, "Guns make me nervous." You know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ugh.
At first, I legitimately thought that was like George Lazenby speaking. I was like, okay, that's actually not a bad, you know, voice change, but it kind of makes sense more that you mentioned that he's dubbed.
Yeah. So, all right, we gotta get into it. All of the women, all the women that are in both the book and the film that have weird allergies, because Blofeld has like used hypnosis to get rid of their allergies so they can poison the livestock and crops so he could be an evil person and hold the world hostage again. It's so far-fetched and bizarre when you look at all the Fleming books. I mean, it's not as weird as You Only Live Twice, where he's convincing the Japanese people to kill themselves in his garden of death. But
well, that was intentionally like surreal and stuff.
Yeah, and he's crazy.
He's full on crazy in the third book, yeah.
But in this, it's just so weird.
I mean, I don't know. It is, when you get down to it, a out there concept, like it's crazy. But they treat it seriously enough, I think.
Yeah.
At the end, it's like biological warfare, I think they call it in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And the book deals more with it than the movie seems to. The movie seems to, like, it's a catalyst, yes, but it doesn't amount to a lot. At least that's what I got in my last view of this.
Well, one difference is in the book, it's only affecting Britain. Whereas in the movie, Blofeld is trying to spread the virus in the entire world. Which, that is the thing I wanted to mention, because I noticed it in the book this time. The operation to catch Blofeld when he's posing as the Count, it's called Operation Corona.
Oh,
I forgot about that.
Got him.
Oh, too soon. Anyway,
you see, Fleming was ahead of his time.
So Bond is just, he starts getting into his Bond shenanigans with women in this,
which is fun, I will say.
I love it.
Because at first it seems like, I think this was an intentional joke, because the women seem to think that Sir Hilary Bray is gay.
Yes, first. Especially in the movie.
I thought it was in the movie well, no, never mind. Yeah, I thought it was like they were making that he was abstinent, but no, they do actually.
I know what he's allergic to. Was one of the quotes.
Yeah, then they actually point out that they were like, "Oh, well, I thought you didn't like girls," and he uses the same pickup line on 2 women. So
in a row, it's so funny.
Yeah, but I made a note of that. I just thought it was hilarious that, like, you know, he, like, 1 minute we see him falling in love with Tracy, and then like 10 minutes later into the film, he hooks up with 2 girls, and then later, you know, like, he's like, "Will you marry me?" You know.
Well, hey, when Tracy comes back, it's one of the best shots in all of the whole franchise. The composition's so classic. Like, it's it's one of a few shots from this film that has always stuck in my mind, because the composition alone is just really.
Speaking of this, I think this is probably the most beautiful looking Bond film up until this point, definitely, and later on.
Yes.
Because there's so much stuff in here. I remember, like in the opening, when we get the reveal of Lazenby. At first, when he's driving, when he's smoking, and it just looks amazing.
Yeah, there's some great shot composition. I will say License to Kill is a good-looking film. License to Kill is a good-looking film. Skyfall's a good-looking film.
This is one of my favorite in Bond soundtracks. Like, I love the theme.
It's weird. It's a weird. We didn't even talk about how the Bond soundtrack, the opening song is just
instrumental. Mm-hmm.
Again, we went back to that, which is full of references to the previous films. We also didn't talk about how when Bond, the only time in the series where Bond goes to his office.
Oh, yeah.
I think he goes to his office in the reboot series, but
he brings...
he has all these things that he shouldn't even have.
It's kind of like the Batcave, where Batman has like all of like artifacts or trophies from
and a T-Rex.
Or a giant Two-Face coin. But like in this, we get that knife from, what's her name? Dr. No. Yeah.
And we have the
watch from Russia with Love, the watch that he tried to kill him with. By the way, this watch returned later in A View to a Kill, in a deleted scene.
Really?
Yes, because Roger Moore gets like arrested at one point in a deleted scene, and M has to bail him out of jail. And they give him back all his possessions, and they give him the watch, and they're like, what is this? When they pull out this thing you can strangle people with. And Roger is like, well, it's from Russia with love.
No.
Yes, that's a deleted scene. You can look it up.
Horrible.
That's a little cringy. Yeah, I mean,
that's horrible for that era too.
It's kind of like from Die Another Day, where
when the jetpack goes off.
So this is where they keep the old relics. Does this still work? And
Oh, that's such a terrible scene too.
But I think here it works, just because it's the first time we have a new actor, and they had to make sure this is the same character. The audience has to get it.
Yeah, I get it, but it's for the dumb people.
I will say, I enjoy this film. It's one of my favorites. I won't say it's like the best Bond film, but it's one of my favorites. I love the skiing scene, especially with that score.
Yeah, this is we'll get into that.
Yeah. There were some things I wanted to talk about with that.
So Bond gets captured basically by Blofeld. They have their reveal,
which is also different from the book.
Which is different. The book has an intense scene. It's one of my favorite parts of the book, where they capture another MI6 agent, and Sir Hilary Bray he was either there or he's brought in. And the agent recognizes him as Bond and says his name.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the freakiest, it's one of the most uncomfortable scenes from oh God. I mean, it's the most uncomfortable scene from that book. In a series where there's always an uncomfortable scene that usually involves Bond being horribly tortured. Which this is a form of torture, because he can't save this guy, and he knows this guy. They kill him, which in the book we don't know who that is. I remember on this rewatch, I'm like, did they put Felix Leiter in this film?
Oh, you think that because we just see him occasionally, just standing there, which they did a lot with Felix.
And Felix got recast he got recast basically every film.
But you know what? They didn't explicitly say it in the movie. I think that's one of Draco's men. Because we see him before, when Bond is getting the documents out of this Swiss guy's office, when he learns, okay, Blofeld is posing as the Count. And, he puts the suitcase.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And we saw this guy at this point already, and then he's also in Switzerland. I think he's specifically there to look after Bond, but maybe also because of Tracy, because she's also there.
That's right, she is there, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We don't know that yet.
Oh, yeah. In the book, we did know at this point, because Bond was thinking, okay, I'm going to Piz Gloria, which is fine, because Tracy is on rehab or something.
Yeah, she's in she's getting better. Because that's one of his things in the book, is that she needs therapy if he's going to marry her. Not just that he needs to have sex with her and dominate her, like in the movie.
It's a great line, though.
It's so terrible.
it's also weird. Just like, here's $1 million. Take my daughter, please.
Yeah.
I mean, he does say, no, I don't need money.
Yeah,
which
was admirable. Yes.
In the book, where Bond really doesn't like having money.
Hmm.
But we get so Bond escapes, which is a pretty cool set piece with him climbing on the
tram or the gondola.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool scene. In the book, he punches a dude with his Rolex and kills him. That's a good one. He's literally like, this is such a good watch, but I need it for this. And he wears his brass knuckles and punches a dude in the temple and kills him and breaks the watch. Because that's a whole intense scene when he escapes because he doesn't have the proper gear. He's skiing without like a coat or something like that. It's like he's exposed to the elements and he's like freezing. First of all, in the movie they take elements from the one ski chase that's in the book.
I was about to say.
Break it into two, which are two excellent set pieces, which shaped most of Roger Moore's films to come. Because man, they got hung up on ski chases in those movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I think Lazenby is the master of one-legged skiing.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, that's fun.
Okay, I have to say though, I'm glad we're talking about this because after rewatching this, it kind of made me chuckle a little bit.
Are you talking about the close-up blue screens?
No.
I always forget they do things like that when the skiing happens.
I did notice that though, but I was just the chase is great, and I love the score that we got with it. But the thing that kind of made me chuckle is they kind of had like some type of Looney Tunes like effects with it, like where he's trying to steal one guy's skis and he tries to hit him with his other skis. He end up knocking him off a cliff, and we get the most, prolonged Wile E. Coyote like death.
Yeah, I was like, and cut. And cuts,
and we're just like looking at our watches, like,
and they keep cutting to other shots. They threw a dummy off that cliff, and they were really proud of it.
Yeah, it just kind of made me laugh that he was just trying to steal the skis, and he ends up knocking the guy off the cliff, like he home runs him off the cliff.
Yeah,
and Bob was like, "Oh." Then he gets it right the second time, but I just thought it was just like
when he starts strangling that guy with the ski forever. This movie just it's just like so New Hollywood with just groveling. It's like wallowing in death. like people are dying horribly. Like he's just slowly they're struggling, and he's just pressing the ski into the dude's throat. It's like. Or my personal favorite from that is there's 3 people directly following Bond, and one flies into a tree, and the main guy says, "Idiot!" And then into a tree.
he's just like, "Idiot." That made me laugh too.
Also, I love that these movies have people skiing with machine guns and no poles.
No, I kind of want you to take that whole scene, speed it up, and put it to the Benny Hill theme music.
It's probably been done.
Probably.
But yeah, that scene is so great.
Yeah.
But that's not even like the most like extreme death that I've seen. Like there's like this one scene with Tracy, which I'm sure we'll get to in a minute.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. But
we want to talk about that because that's from the book.
I will say though that like that ski chasing scene, like near the end where he makes it to that town, like that was probably like some of the best suspense I've seen in a long time. Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't work for me is that Bond's really beaten up, and they make clear that he's not in any shape to fight these people. Like and in the book, he stabbed a dude with his ski pole, which is a pretty graphic scene. I mean, we'll get to it now. Someone falls into a snowblower or something like that, or like some sort of wood chipper-esque thing, and gets mashed up which they end up using later when Tracy and Bond are skiing together, which is kind of a dumb scene, except for that I'm glad they put that one thing in.
Yeah, he and Lazenby said something, like he made some type of pun. I can't remember what he said. That's gonna bother me now, but
like he was pretty gutsy.
That's it. Yeah.
It's fucking awful, and yeah, it's getting explicit tag. We've been talking about sex for for most of this.
But I just want to mention, when Bond gets into this town, I love Lazenby's face when he walks right into this giant beer thing.
Oh, the bear? Yeah.
The bear.
That thing, yeah, that thing's scary. I'd freak out. He gets like nearly mauled by a furry with a camera.
That also reminds me, we forgot to bring this up, but when Bond is captured in the film, like he kind of makes a similar face when he goes to that one girl's room, and then Irma Bunt is in it, and it's just like he's like, fancy meeting you here, for all like, and just knocks out. Just like, I mean, that like it was just like, it happened so fast. It was just like, his reaction to it was pretty priceless.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But he like, I can't remember. So in the book, is it close to New Year, or is it close to Christmas?
I think it's close to New Year.
Because they're having a party and he sneaks into it for cover. And that's when he runs into Tracy, which is a beautiful scene. But in the movie, she's ice skating. It's the perfect composition. I'm a huge fan of when she shows up, and then she saves him.
Yeah,
which is pretty nice.
Which I love. She's driving. Bond is in the passenger seat, and she's driving through this race thing they are having.
Oh yeah, they're track racing in the snow, which makes no sense to me and sounds incredibly dangerous.
It is dangerous, as we see later on. But she's driving and she looks so like into it and happy.
Yeah.
Which was amazing, just watching Diana Rigg's face when she does it.
Yeah, she's having a good time.
Yeah.
They're being chased by Irma Bunt and a bunch of the henchmen in a car. Which in the book, she's not in the car because the car goes off a cliff because they flip a Looney Tunes and change the sign. And do road construction and fall to their deaths.
Bond using his brain.
Exactly.
But in that scene,
he's basically Bugs Bunny in this story.
When Bond and the henchmen are chasing after Bond and Tracy, their car explodes at the end. And I wanted to mention this because I noticed it this time. You can see Irma Bunt's stunt double getting out of the car when it explodes. And you can see her stunt double getting on fire. And there's like ADR of like Irma Bunt, the actress, going like, ah! Which was amazing because I was like, is she on fire?
But yeah, so Bond and Tracy end up hiding in a barn. Bond asks her to marry him.
A romantic scene. Because we needed that in comparison to the book, which I also love in a way, because in the book, Bond sends her away and he asked her to marry him in like, where is it? Like the shittiest place imaginable. Like a cafeteria or something?
Yes.
Which I like because Bond doesn't give a damn where he proposes to a woman.
Well, he doesn't spur of the moment and doesn't realize why he did it. And that frustrates me. Why even do it? It's so weird. Because if you read this book and didn't watch the movie, you would think, oh, he's going to get out of it. And he's not going to marry her.
Guess what?
But he proposes to her. He sends her away so he can contact M. And M's briefed on Christmas.
Which is a great scene.
And Mary Goodnight's in it.
Oh yeah, true.
I always love Mary Goodnight. She's a good secretary and plays a bigger role. couple books later.
Yeah, but that's something in the book I wish we would have had in the movie. We get to see M and Bond spending Christmas together. Which sounds silly, and it is, because the people working for M, they put like firecrackers or something on the desk, like as a nice little thing, and M is just annoyed.
Oh, we didn't mention this. This is the only time we go to M's manor.
Oh yeah.
Oh, in the film, yeah, too, yeah. And he's got like a butler and everything, and
yeah, which is a friend of his if you read in the books.
Oh, yeah.
Which we get to in Colonel's son.
Oh no, that was upsetting.
But yeah, it was a nice different scene, getting to M's house instead of just the office.
Yes, and his weird butterfly collection.
Yeah. Hey, giving M some more personality.
Exactly.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, because I mean, the only book that really does that is Man with the Golden Gun, which I don't think was out yet.
No, that came later, after Fleming's death.
Yeah. Well, he was dead by now, but like, I'm trying to remember when Man with the Golden Gun came out.
I'm trying to think. Let me look it up quick.
Yeah, because that's...
Okay, so Fleming died in 1964. No. Okay, Man with the Golden Gun was out.
Okay.
Because it came out like a year after his death, I think.
But was Octopussy and the Living Daylights out yet?
I think so.
Okay.
They came out somewhat close to each other, I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because the 70s has like next to no Bond releases book-wise. But anyway, in the film, we have another ski chase, which after a dude shows his guts, Blofeld causes an avalanche that mildly buries Bond, and he kidnaps Tracy.
Again, different from the book.
Different.
But I think good.
I don't. Because we get to some weirdness that doesn't seem like Blofeld would do.
Okay, I agree with that.
Oh, yeah, like he was like trying to seduce Tracy or something.
Yeah, it's so weird, and it's like a weird weakness that I don't like Blofeld having.
Yeah, because in the books he's like not sexual at all.
No.
Like, they even mention if he ever had sex, nobody knows it. And the only time he has a relationship is with, we can spoil it, Irma Bunt, but that's after he's gone batshit crazy.
Yes. She's the only one left of Spectres sticking around that isn't part of that dragon gang.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, in theory, I really like what they do here, that they, keep Tracy in the story.
Yeah.
They add some urgency for Bond to get to Bits Gloria.
Yeah, other than because they're not super focused on the threat like they are, like, say in Thunderball. Thunderball, the movie, is so dire because, like, it is just focused on trying to find those nukes.
Yeah, and here they do it differently. They focus more on, the characters and the romance, especially. Yeah. Which I like. I would say it works. And I like how they end the story with the virus and the biological weapon when Bond is in Blofeld's office, which is another great set, by the way, and he's like taking pictures of Blofeld's map. And when he takes these pictures,
says 007 on it.
Oh yeah. Hey, Q got to work. But the pictures he makes, what we see are like headshots of all the women who were in the place, which is like the visual way of telling us, okay, this girl is here, this girl is here, this girl is here, and they can, get them and stop
because
it.
In the book, he convinces one of the girls. I think he only sleeps with the one girl. I don't think he sleeps with two in the book.
Maybe.
Speaking of which,
he gets her to tell him all their names and where they're from.
Oh yeah, and he writes it down, and he writes it in his own secret, stuff in his pee. and then he sends it in.
Right. He writes.
And then the guy who analyzes it is like, okay, we got all the information. By the way, Bond, you should cut back on your alcohol consumption.
I also noticed something that in this film that we don't see in any other film. That from what I remember, like we see Lazenby like walking down, like he leaves his office after stealing a giant picture from a Playboy magazine.
That was good.
Yeah, and he's just like holding it way up there, like, and then he's just like,
and we get full frontal nudity.
Yeah,
that
was similar to like the scene in Dr. No when Bond is waiting in this house and he's playing cards with himself.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, Lazenby, he tries to crack this safe and he's getting bored, so he just grabs a Playboy magazine.
Well, it's not bad like when Bond uses his Playboy card in the next film.
No, this was a great scene.
This is a good scene. It's funny. It shows some character. He's just a dude.
It's just like, this is going in my bedroom, you know?
And then just takes it out with him.
It's such a power move. But we gotta talk about the helicopters.
Okay.
That's so cool. That's cool in both the book and the movie.
Yeah.
He's not going to get help from
M or the government. Yeah.
So he joins the mafia, basically.
Yes. Not the first time in the books that he's done something like this. What is that story called? It's in For Your Eyes Only.
Oh.
M.
Oh yeah. That's gonna bother me now.
Was it For Your Eyes? Riziko? That was it.
Yeah.
Which is adapted in For Your Eyes Only, the movie.
Yes, because they adapt most of that book into it. Actually, they only adapt about half, I think. Because From A View to a Kill, that part of that story has never been adapted in anything. Unless you don't Never Say Never Again when Sean Connery uses a motorcycle and drives around, because that's most of what From A View to a Kill is just riding a motorcycle.
So the scene with the helicopters, like what I was wanting to mention, like with one of the more unorthodox kills was like we see Tracy killing this guy by shoving him into like some spikes.
It's some modern art that's a bunch of nails nailed to.
I know. I'm just like, first I thought, I was like, is that supposed to be like a back scratcher or something like that? But
is this supposed to be a flat porcupine? I don't know.
It's like,
but she fights with that guy for a while. It's pretty good. But like Bond, Draco's like, we're the Red Cross. We're helping some people out in Italy, I think is where they're going. That's the cover. They go in, they kill pretty much annihilate Spectre.
Yep.
In the book, it's more brutal. Like a bunch of Draco's men die, as I recall. But they pretty much kill Spectre. It's left up to interpretation if Blofeld and Irma Bunt died
in the book. Oh yeah, because they are not sure, but one sees Blofeld escape.
Yeah,
he only sees them. That's the thing in the book, where they don't meet face to face as like Bond and Blofeld. They only interacted with each other in like their own covers as like the Count and Hilary Bray.
Yeah,
and then we get the scene with Blofeld where he gets like hung by a tree, like on that bobsled.
Oh yeah, the bobsled chase is pretty cool.
Yeah, that one.
That's a great set piece.
Yeah, it's just like.
Although that's the longest grenade I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's like he's still like after like he pulled the pin, like normally grenades like go off like a few seconds, but he's still like holding it, like he's like ready, almost now. And I'm just like, dude, that grenade should have went off like 5 seconds ago.
Well, he pulls the pin out without even depressing the thing. It's a pineapple. Like, that's not how they work.
And then we get that one weird line from Bond that said, like, he's a little branched up,
Which was also ADR.
Yes. Well, it had to be.
Yeah.
And it's weird because we get 3 different deaths, I'd say, fates, I should probably say, of Blofeld with this story. Like in the book, he escapes. In the film, like, Bond assumes he's dead, but in the video game, like 007 Legends, where they use Daniel Craig, his face and voice with this story, like, he throws Blofeld out of like one of those gondolas or trams, and he just says, like, I think he's dead, but he doesn't actually just like look down there to see if he actually hit the died. Like, he's just like, I think he's dead.
Oh God, is that how that goes?
Yeah, he calls M right as soon as he throws Blofeld out of the tram and just says, like,
that's so dumb.
Oh my god. What they should have done is like a Michael Myers shot in like Halloween. Bond looks down, Blofeld lies in the snow, he calls M, then he looks down again.
You hear that?
But we got to get to the wedding.
Oh yeah.
Wait, first I wanted to mention a little bit more about Blofeld here. So they had to give him an end here because they couldn't do like it was in the book, that they don't really meet each other as like themselves. So they break his neck in a way in that scene with the tree.
Yeah.
And I guess Bond assumes Blofeld is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's a safe assumption, because that would have killed a normal human being.
Yeah, they don't retrieve his body. I guess they just leave him in the snow, which is great. And we see him, this Blofeld, again in For Your Eyes Only.
Oh. Yeah.
Specifically, not the same actor, but with the...
Yes.
Oh, where he's like all punny and everything. He's like, goodbye, Mr. Bond. I hope you had a good fright.
And he has like the neck brace on.
He's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and like he's like,
he also broke his legs somehow in between.
Well, I thought that the branch may have paralyzed him or something, like that's why.
Oh, because he's driving.
He doesn't need functioning legs for that.
That would have made a quad.
That would be funny, watching Majesties now with the assumption that he's like that he can't move his legs at the end.
If he injured himself and he broke his neck, it's a really easy. Well, first of all, it's more likely he'd die.
Yeah.
But if he's going to survive, he'd be a quadriplegic, so like he wouldn't have arm function either. But
maybe that's why Irma Bunt at the end is doing all the stuff.
Well, Irma Bunt's sitting in the back with the machine gun. That's like, it doesn't make.
Which was, by the way, I know this is a change from the book, but seeing Irma Bunt with a machine gun
with an AR
is like the most amazing thing.
Like going out the window, she's like,
Yep. So let's get to the wedding and the final scene.
Yeah.
The wedding's interesting. We get Draco and M talking.
Yeah, right? We get Bond and Tracy's dads, basically.
Yeah. And they're discussing like, they're near misses with one another, which is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. We get cues like, you weren't so bad. But the one scene that I'm really, once again, wish Connery was there is Moneypenny.
Yeah, with the hat.
Look at one another. And it just doesn't work with Lazenby because this is his first movie and we don't really have that establishment.
Yeah,
it would have helped, but I still think it's good.
It's still good.
I would also like to point out: is this the last time we see Bond with the hat? Because that would be a great send-off for that.
I don't know if he's wearing the hat in Diamonds Are Forever.
I don't think so. I think in the gun barrel, because that was already used in like a previous Connery film.
It's the gun barrel from Thunderball and
But I think this might be the last time where he throws the hat. This old classic gag. I think that's a good send off for that joke.
Yeah, because Roger Moore doesn't ever wear the hat because that wasn't a 70s thing. That was a leftover from like the 40s, the 30s and 40s. And
I think Lazenby is the very last Bond to wear a hat. like I don't remember Dalton wearing a hat at all either, or Brosnan.
He was wearing one in a deleted scene of License to Kill, which we can talk about because it looks amazing. He was wearing a hat similar to like yours, Adam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it looked extremely silly on him.
It's not like the rodeo Dalton drawing in the book I was showing you all.
Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. He was wearing a tuxedo to a carnival in Living Daylight, so
hey, that worked.
Not saying it didn't work. I'm just saying
because it's Dalton. If it were anyone else, it wouldn't work. But for some reason, that works. But we get one of the saddest things to happen in this entire series, which is
Bond's wife dies. Yeah,
Tracy gets gunned down. They get in a car accident. Well, in the book, they get in a car accident. In the movie, they're stopped.
Yeah,
he stops to get her like a flower or something, I think, from the car.
He wants to get the flowers off because he's like, nah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he wants
that.
Yeah. And it makes me sad. Like you hear like them say like, now we have all the time in the world, and Tracy's like, you gave me hope or something, and then not 5 seconds later she dies. I'm like, oh.
And he's like, "Let's Blofeld. We got to go after him," and she's dead.
Yeah, and that's a great shot, by the way, when you see that one gunshot going through the window right in the head and the blood.
Right in the head, and it's barely not an R rating.
Yeah.
Just barely.
And then we get Lazenby's reaction, which I think is great. Like, I think that may be his best acting scene.
Yes, it's absolutely. I agree.
Which I want to point out, I think Lazenby even said he read the book during the filming of this scene just to get in the mood and get it correct. And there's like one take where he actually cried a little bit, but they said, Bond doesn't cry, don't do it.
It would have been the perfect time, though.
Yeah.
In the book, he doesn't cry.
No, in the book, he's completely in shock.
Yes. And they find him like way later, like some highway patrol, because it's on the Autobahn in the book.
Mm-hmm.
A place that someday, Noah, I will visit you and we will ship my car because I will not drive your car on the Autobahn.
I was going to say,
my sports car.
I heard that scene. I heard that scene in an audiobook of this on our Majesty Secret Service, and normally I like the narrator, like his portrayal of the characters, especially Bond and everything, but I did not like that scene because like he made
David Tennant.
No, it's not David Tennant.
Because David Tennant does the current audiobook, and I don't like how he did that scene either.
It's not David Tennant. But he reads it off like, he's like, oh yeah, it's all right. She's just resting. I'm like, no, like Bond's like distraught over what happened, and he was just pleasant, just like, oh yeah, had another girlfriend or woman in my life die, so I'm just like, no, come on. I didn't like the portrayal of that. It's just that scene, like both in the book and the film, was like very emotionally powerful, and it was like
one thing that ruins that scene in the movie. They start playing the Bond theme immediately.
Yeah, which I have been told the idea is like, okay, we have the sad moment, and then the Bond theme kicks in to be like, but he will be back and he will get his revenge. Yeah, we will get to that. But it doesn't work because it cuts to it way too quickly. It's like really
on a freeze frame of her dead corpse.
You will return and diamonds are forever.
Oh my gosh.
So
if I can change one thing about this movie, like we have talked a bit about, little flaws, but overall I love this film. It's in my top 5, definitely.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
If I can change just one thing, just play like We Have All the Time in the World over the end credits.
Like the orchestral version of it.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Like a minor key. That would be what they do now.
Yeah.
Because the Bond movies are just emo movies now.
Yeah, but here it would have worked. We didn't even talk about All the Time in the World.
Oh, Louis Armstrong.
Song. Yeah. It's a great song that plays during the montage of Bond and Tracy falling in love, and it shows up periodically. This Adams said it right. This is this is the most 60s of all the Bonds. All the Bond scores is super kind of psychedelic sounding a little bit, but it's really good. I have this. They did a reissue of the vinyl. It's so good on vinyl. But I'm not a big fan of the novel of On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Controversially,
I think Fleming lost touch with what made Bond Bond.
see, I would say he was evolving as like an author, because you have to keep in mind the Bond books very much reflect his own life and what he was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I find interesting, definitely. Especially with like You Only Live Twice, which he wrote, I'm pretty sure he knew like his time was up.
Yeah. It's just like, it's this weird interlude where he wrote 3 books that I don't think are particularly good. One's awful. It's called The Spy Who Loved Me.
I will somewhat defend it, but yeah, it's his worst.
I have a story about that I'll get into once, because I want to. Can I go ahead and tell it? It's kind of funny.
Yes.
Okay, so whenever they Noah and Jeremy first started their podcast, I asked specifically if I could come on for this book and movie discussion, because I do love On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Like Noah, it's one of my favorite Bond films. So I, power read through most of this series, but the most cringeworthy adventure was I read The Spy Who Loved Me in a day. And
I don't know how you did it.
I'll tell you how I did it. It was an audiobook, because I thought I was in Florida with my family on a vacation, and I was before you mentioned earlier that you were in the middle of moving different houses before we had to push back the release date of this episode. So I thought, like, oh man, I got to get both these books read by next week. So I sat through like an 6 to 8 hour plane ride listening to The Spy Who Loved Me. And I'm just like,
it's one of the shortest books, but it feels the longest. Even the audiobook is just not good.
It was the most, and just, if you guys remember what it feels like to like sit on an airplane and listen to headphones and then take them off to hear like the muffled, distortion of the airplane. Just like, I was like, it was definitely one of the more uncomfortable experiences reading a Bond book. I'm like, I powered through that book just so I can start On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I started it the very next day after I got back from vacation.
Yeah. Most of these books I would do in a day, because I used to be a DoorDash driver.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got into these books and listening to them. I just kept buying Audible credits. And by the time we started doing Live and Let's Discuss, I think I was on Thunderball.
Mm-hmm.
I was either on Thunderball or For Your Eyes Only. And then I was like, I hadn't started The Spy Who Loved Me before. I was like, you need to get through all of these, Adam.
But I think I remember messaging you guys on our Marco Polo chat. I'm just like, hey, I think I'm about to start The Spy Who Loved Me. And I remember Noah being extremely excited about that. I was just like, I can't wait to hear what you think about it. Afterwards, I'm just like, I hate this book.
But we couldn't say anything because Matthew is still on. Oh God, where is Matthew?
He finished Diamonds Are Forever. He still needs From Russia with Love, I think.
He keeps reading those terrible Star Wars books. Star Wars books he doesn't like. I can't stress that enough.
But I can't help but wonder if, like, whenever the day I mentioned, I'm going to start reading The Spy Who Loved Me, I'm going to try to finish it soon. I'm wondering if, like, after I got off that chat, Noah was like,
I think I told you it was bad. I think I warned you.
Yeah, you did actually. You're just like
Noah was like, it's very different. That's pretty much all I got. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is so horrible. And we'll get to it more when we actually review Spy Who Loved Me, which that's going to be a
It's going to be two different discussions about a book and a movie that have nothing to do with each other.
But we also have a novelization for that movie.
Yeah.
It's going to be so convoluted. I keep thinking about that, and Moonraker is the same sort of deal.
Which I was glad I actually found that novelization for I think that was like the last book that you needed, and everywhere else sold it online for like even the cheapest book that you could find on eBay or something that was like $50 shipping, and I found it for like $3, and so we dodged a bullet there. But
because I have both printings of the Christopher Wood novelization of Spy Who Loved Me, but I couldn't give one of those to Noah because the pages fell out. It's missing pages. That was the first one I got, and it literally was disintegrating when I opened it, so I had to buy another one. So I think I have both, either two of the same cover of Moonraker's novelization, or I have one of each of those two, which is weird for me because I like to collect Bond covers.
As far as covers go, I have the ugliest, and Noah, I'm not going to lie, there was a part of me that was just like, I wonder if he'll notice if I switched him. I'm like, no, he'd want the nicer cover. So I was halfway tempted, like, no, I can't do it.
Are you talking the one that's just Roger Moore's face?
Yeah, and he's like
a white background.
Yeah.
That was the only copy I could find online. That's why I was so surprised when I found, when your copy arrived, and it was like, that's a great cover.
Yeah, that's
I didn't even know that existed.
That's the cover I bought that was missing pages, and then more pages fell out of it, so I got the other one.
Yeah, I was halfway tempted to just trade him. Like, he won't. And I'm like, nah, I can't do it.
It's such a strange cover. It's just Roger Moore.
It's not even from. I don't even know if it's from that movie.
I don't think so. Isn't that his pose in Man with the Golden Gun?
Yeah, he looks too young.
Here, I'll grab it.
Because, we can get into it a little bit. Roger Moore did Bond for so long that, there are different phases of Roger Moore's look. Yeah.
There he is.
That looks like from Man with the Golden Gun. Because Roger Moore looks young in the Live and Let Die.
And Man with the Golden Gun, I would say, which is weird because he was actually older than Connery when Connery left.
That was the point.
Yeah.
He was continuously aging, which, we didn't even mention George Lazenby is the youngest person to play Bond. Mm-hmm. He's actually the correct age to play Bond in a Casino Royale.
Yeah, because wasn't Bond in his 30s?
Yes, and by the time we get to this book, on Her Majesty's, he's got to be in his 40s, which it gets really weird when you get to A Blast from the Past, the Raymond Benson story, where he's in his he acts like he's in his 60s, in his 50s or 60s. He's banging a 19-year-old, and then he ends with banging a 40-year-old who has the physique of a 25-year-old, and she pulls her boobs out and says bon appetit and sticks his boob in his mouth.
We have to keep mentioning that short story.
That short story was written for Playboy, by the way, which excuses a little bit of it. It has Irma Bunt in it. It's her demise.
Yeah, her demise, because You Only Live Twice wasn't enough.
Yeah, so
she's like Palpatine.
She
survived getting blown up.
And she's all melted and gross and wears a mask. And she Bond fathers a child with Kissy, and just never was around for that child. He has a son, Adam, in that story, and his son's poisoned and dies a horrible death.
Because Adam, you just you haven't read Man with the Golden Gun, but you have read You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
Where at the end this is talked about that Kissy is pregnant with Bond's child.
Yeah.
So just in case you were thinking, I wonder if any other books ever touch this again.
Just that short story, at least as far as we know, that's the only time. And then on top of that, we find out that Kissy died of cancer. And I'm like, That's lovely. Although it's one of the few times you actually find out what the fate of a Bond girl after the fact.
Yeah, except for like Tracy. Yeah, but yeah, that's you don't normally like.
I mean, you figure in Trigger Mortis, Pussy Galore's in that for the first half, and was nearly sacrificed at Stonehenge, according to Noah. I have not read that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really strange.
It makes me wonder about. We can actually transition into this. Anthony Howowitz, the current Bond author, his third Bond book is a sequel to Man with the Golden Gun, which Adam, his first one, Trigger Mortis, is between Goldfinger and For Your Eyes Only.
Mm-hmm.
And his second book, Forever and a Day, is a prequel to Casino Royale.
Oh, okay.
So he's written all over the place.
Yeah, before, in the middle, and after the Fleming books.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. I'm a little worried. I always get a little worried that it's going to contradict Colonel Sun.
Which I think I have heard that Horowitz is a fan of Colonel Sun, but I think he also said, I'm not going to mention it. Like, I'm not going to go, direct continuity, but he might try not to directly contradict it, at least.
I hope it just happens before Colonel Sun.
Yeah, possibly.
Because it's a year between Man with the Golden Gun and Colonel Sun, correct? I think that's what...
I think so. They say, like, last summer when he got shot by Scaramanga.
Oh, spoilers. For Adam.
Oh, that's okay.
That's not a spoiler. A bad guy shoots at him. I don't say when this happened in the story or if it's important even.
That's true. That's true. It isn't the beginning. The beginning is like the most important part of that book, which is weird to think about, but like it's the best part. Like,
would have made a great pre-title sequence.
God, can you imagine like
a new Bond actor coming in with that scene?
No, I was thinking, can you imagine if Roger Moore? That would have been interesting. I don't know if he could have pulled it off.
I don't know.
I could see Connery doing it. That would have been interesting. I don't know. I know Dalton could have done it.
Oh, definitely.
And they tried to kind of do that with Die Another Day and gave up. Remember when Bond is tortured by the CGI scorpions?
No. Yeah, I know.
While Madonna's worst song she's ever written plays in the background.
Okay. Adam, right. I see. It's time for him.
Time?
Yeah. So I think we can wrap this up.
All right.
Okay. So I can just say I love the book. Definitely. I think I like the movie even more. No way. Like I said, it adds a lot, especially to the love story, because this is more or less the first big like romance plot. I think the only other one we have is like, well, a little bit The Living Daylights, definitely, and Casino Royale. And I think this one still is the best in terms of,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite films. I don't know if I'd say it's one of my favorite books, but I did like the book. And like we said, it really, as far as like how Bond films, like they take after the book. This one, did the most justice compared to. I think the second closest would be, well, sort of. Never mind. I was going to say Goldfinger, but there's quite a bit of differences in Goldfinger.
Obviously, the most accurate was Time and South Forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just rewatched that and just like. Ugh.
Yeah, what a great sequel to this masterpiece.
Oh God, I have to watch that. Like, not tomorrow because we're going to be. Join us on Paper Movies when we discuss License to Kill by John Gardner.
That's going to be fun.
That is going to be really fun. I'm almost done with that.
Me too.
Nice.
Yeah. But I I think the movie's fine. It's a weird Bond movie that you can definitely check out. The book is not my thing. I'm not a fan of Fleming's writing in this era. There are far better Bond books, but for many, this is considered like the best. This is his most critically acclaimed work, so you should definitely check it out.
Mhm.
So, anyway, hope you all have a good one. I'm glad to be back in the saddle with y'all. And
Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Join us next time as we dive into Sean Connery's return in Diamonds Are Forever.